I've never had a close encounter. But I've seen things flying that were trailing us or out on the distance that weren't there, like the air traffic saying, "Oh, we don't see anything." After we took off and we're climbing out to make that right turn to go towards Venezuela, we both looked at each other and went, "Oh my God, did we dodge a bullet?"
Today I'm spending time with Mike out at his airport. He's been a flyer his whole life. He flew jets, he flew American Airlines, he flew in South America. He's got great stories. So let's go do this. So Mike, thanks for taking the time to meet with us.
Absolutely, good to meet you. Very good to meet you.
And this is your place, yeah?
Yeah, this is Hangar Hacienda. It's a residential air park community here at around 27th Avenue and Baseline, just south of right on South Mountain on the North Slope. And been here since around the 60s, and short runway, but a residential community. A lot of airplanes here. I probably have more than most, but a lot of these guys are my friends that I let them keep their airplane here because it's convenient for them. They don't have to go to Chandler or one of the municipal airports. And so these are mine and my partners. I'm partnership in this airplane. That's my other CB. The one that we had to put down on 7th Street is sitting on the side of the hangar out there.
Right, I saw that. Was about a month ago, right?
Yeah, it was April 12th.
Yeah, you'll remember that day forever.
I remember. I will. That day will go down in infamy.
Yeah, tell us about that in a minute. But this is the actual plane, right?
Yeah, this is right here's the what's left of it, because there's the wings out there on the trailer and some of the other parts when we had to take it apart. But this is the airframe that actually went down.
This was your plane, you were flying, and
this was a partnership that we were creating for. There's another guy involved, and he actually bought the airplane and brought it. And we were in the process of transacting and putting the partnership together when this happened.
Was he in the plane?
No, just me and my two friends of mine. One of them is a local pilot here, owns a plane, keeps it at Chandler. His name's Hanan. And then a friend of mine from Montenegro, who's the president of the Seaplane Association there. He's pretty active in bringing seaplane aviation back to Europe and back into the Montenegro area or the Adriatic. Sunday morning, we're sitting out there by up at the house, and we say, "Hey, let's go for a little ride. Let's take a little ride, joyride." Yeah. And so we were just going to go for a little 20-minute drive around Phoenix at 2,500 feet. You can kind of skirt around around the surface area of Sky Harbor and get to see downtown and everything. And so I took him for a little ride, and that thing lasted about 13 minutes, and we were on the ground in 7th Street in Phoenix.
Wow. So had you flown the plane before?
Oh yeah. We had just come back from probably, I'm guessing just a week earlier. We go out to Parker and on the Colorado River, and so we'd flown the airplane out there.
So it had been good in this.
Oh yeah, well, it had just had an annual in December.
What happened?
Well, what happened was, and I can show you. What happened was, in most airplanes, the exhaust system, as you'll see, like in here, the exhaust system faces backwards. Yeah. In this particular configuration and this STC, the exhaust system goes forward. Okay, and all 3 cylinders on each side have a single pipe, come into a single pipe, probably 1.5-inch pipe. And then there's a diversion section at the end, which takes the hot air from the exhaust gases and it ports it overboard through the cowling. Well, sometime during the flight, probably fairly early, that thing failed. And there was a clamp on the end, and that clamp and the metal failed. And so the pressure from the EGT pushed that piece off of the pipe. Now it became a straight pipe about 1.5 inches, and I had just set the EGTs for cruise, so they were up around 1,425 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, right facing forward, right in front of that is a bulkhead, and it melted through that bulkhead, burned a hole about that big in the bulkhead, and on the other side of that bulkhead is a compartment. That compartment, that hot air went into that compartment directly like a blowtorch, and it went back into the intake system for the aircraft. So it was feeding 1400 degree air into the engine. It just makes the engine believe that it's at a very high altitude because it's normally aspirated. It's a not turbocharged aircraft. So literally 1400 degrees, I'm guessing the engine thought it was operating around 30,000 feet. I didn't calculate it, but I gotta believe it's way high. So that's a very, very big reduction in power, obviously. The second thing that was definitely part of it was the first wires to be melted and to be grounded were the RPM gauge. The RPM gauge slammed all the way, like it looked like the RPM went to redline, but it didn't. I tried to control the prop, but there was no controlling the prop. It wasn't coming back or doing anything. So it really wasn't at redline. It was an instrument indication. But at the same time, and remember, all of this is happening in a minute and 50 seconds.
Right.
This isn't like we're talking about it longer than it actually took.
It's already happened.
It's already really happening. Yeah, it happened all in very quick succession. Yeah. But and I'm only surmising the succession of it. But but in any case, the next thing that happened was the heat from the hot air was going across a fuel line that went from the strainer to the engine, and in that fuel line, because it's superheated now, it was vapor locking. It was vaporizing the fuel. So the mixture going into the engine was then again reduced even further. So it was like flying at very high altitude. Mm-hmm. That's the power loss that we experienced. From there, we started, we slowed the airplane, I slowed the airplane to approach speed, and then began a drift down procedure to try and find a place to land. Obviously, the engine actually still running technically, but wasn't producing any power. And then after a few seconds later, the rest of the wiring melted. It grounded those wires together, and it grounded out the magnetos, so I had no ignition at that point. So we didn't have any fire. So at that point, the engine stopped. Now, most piston engines, they windmill when they fail because they're connected. But in this particular engine, it's a geared engine. So the prop actually stopped, and that happened 23 seconds before touchdown.
So basically, you were a glider.
We were pretty much once we had slowed to 80 miles an hour, which is the approach speed I used. Once we got to that speed, then there was no more reduction of power. There's no power, so we started drifting down, and that is, we were a glider basically. It's a drift down procedure, and we were basically at that point a glider.
So this is the kind of thing that has always been in the back of your head. I mean, you've sort of trained for this, right?
Any pilot, pilots, it's funny, but fixed wing pilots maybe a little bit less than what we should. We're always looking for a place to land.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like even if it's nothing more than subliminal in the back of your mind, where am I going to go if something happens? An airport, if you're in a cross-country environment, you're looking for a diversion airport. Even I did even while I was going out, I was always considering where would I go. Deer Valley, Glendale, what am I closest to? Right. At the time, and when I was up at that point where we had the failure, Sky Harbor was only like 6-7 miles away. So, excuse me, it was not gonna, I wasn't gonna get anywhere. I wasn't gonna get to Sky Harbor.
Yeah.
So once I realized that Sky Harbor was not an option, we were landing. So now it was really pick a place to land. And when we started at 2,500 feet and we started our drift down, that really 2,500 feet, if you think about it, literally above Sky Harbor is only 1,500 feet above the ground. So, I mean, that's enough, but once we got hit 1,000 feet above the ground, there's no more conversation, there's no more decision making. We're landing, and it's pick a place to land and then do the procedures.
And how'd you pick 7th Street? Looked pretty good, huh?
Well, it was, one thing is it was out in front of us. We were already in that right-hand turn to Sky Harbor when it was obvious. So as we were in that turn, it was right there. The intervention part was that there was no traffic, or very little traffic on the airport, on the street. So once I made that turn and I saw it, you can see in the video that I made a slight left turn so that I could line up and come over and get onto 7th Street where I would pick a place to cross the wires and everything.
Well, I'd say it was well done.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that very much.
Well done. Your legend grows, right?
Well, you know what? I mean, I first off, I always thank, if I can, the first responders, the police department, fire department, even the citizens there. They were fantastic. They really helped us. The police department was very good, securing the area, making sure that the aircraft was secure and that there wasn't any fuel leakage or anything like that. And then, of course, I always have to thank, aside, next to the military, airline pilots are the highest trained pilots in the world.
Now, you were an airline pilot for
40 years.
You've met a lot of pilots. Do you think that there's a skill set that you can't be learned in school? Like, do some people have the touch that's...
I would say it's the opposite. I would say that most people can fly airplanes, and it's not there's no magic in it. I mean, it's a motor skill for the most part. Nobody can teach judgment. That's one thing we can't teach. You can show, you can guide, you can give, rules that you should follow and do, but nobody can teach judgment. So I would say opposite, that occasionally you run into people that should not be flying. I would say that today the skill set is more on decision making and automation flying because of containment in the airspace. I'm an airspace guy. I'm graduated from the Academy for Airspace. In fact, I was a major, or I should say a focal player in the airspace redesign in the United States and implementing RNAV and RNP in the U.S. America West was kind of the leader in that, and I was assigned to be basically the subject matter expert for the FAA for many. In fact, all the procedures here in Phoenix I designed. Yeah.
Could you show us some of your planes?
Yeah, sure. This is another Bonanza we're working on right now. One of my friends is going to get his license, so he bought this airplane. We have the prop out for inspection right now. Otherwise, this airplane's ready to go. Out there, you see that is a Lake Renegade. The airplane that you see over here behind the tree, that's a Cessna 210.
Right. We
We have helicopters as well. I had
you fly helicopters too?
Oh yeah, I had a helicopter business. I owned 8 helicopters.
Really?
They were all ag birds like that one, and I specialized in cherry drying and almonds, and
that's where you just hover, right?
Yeah, correct. We have a little blurb on my YouTube channel that shows what we do. But yeah, we used to go up to Washington for many years, and I would tow my helicopter up there with my motorhome, and we'd spend the summer up there drying cherries when it rained.
And you come back with good cherries, right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
So you all live right around the strip, right? It's a private strip.
It's a private air park.
It's yours, right? I mean,
what's that?
Everyone here owns it, right?
Yeah. It's a association portion that is deeded to the association, and our association handles the maintenance of it and so on. Runway 826.
Look at that, 3,000 feet?
No, the runway itself is around 2,400, and then we have overrun areas about 1,000, not quite, and at the other end, not nearly as much, maybe a quarter of this. We have overrun areas.
So how do you know, like, when your friends take it, you just got to look, right?
What's that?
Who's taking off when?
Well, we even though we do not have an assigned frequency here, we have a frequency that we use, which is the standard air-to-ground frequency of 122.9. We don't have to report to anybody to come and go. Above us is about 5,000 feet or 3,000 feet, so we can take off out here, stay at 2,500 feet, and transit out in and out without talking to anybody.
So you don't have to clear it with Phoenix?
No, we don't have to talk to Phoenix, Tracon, or the tower or anybody. This is a really good little location for being in town. Yeah. I'm building another one west of town called Eagle Tail Air Park. It's the same thing as this, but much bigger. We have a 5,000 foot runway with 1,000-foot displaced thresholds there.
This reminds me, when I was a kid, I watched that show called, what was it, Sky King?
Oh, it was like, I grew up on Sky King.
That's probably what got, now, did you always want to fly? I mean,
well, let's put it this way. When my dad was military. We were based in Georgia at the time. I'm guessing I was probably at the time 3 to 5 years old. Probably 5 years old. Yeah. And Georgia would have been about 5 or 6. And they used to have a thing called penny a pound. And I remember we went out on a weekend. We went to one of these penny a pound flights, and I got a chance to sit up front. And all I can remember, I couldn't even see over the glare shield. All I could see in front of me was this wheel that said Skylane on it.
You were hooked, right?
As soon as we took off, I looked out to the side. We took off, and I went, oh, this is what I want to do. And I would say that while I really didn't know until after high school, because after high school I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and I went out and spent some time traveling around the world, hitchhiking, and it's what you did in the 70s, sure. Right?
Yeah.
And I went to Europe and I traveled around, and when I got done with that couple of years, I decided I was going to be a pilot. And I applied to Embry-Riddle, got accepted to Embry-Riddle, and sent me a bill for about 80 grand. And I went, my family was not prepared for that. And so I went to talk to my father about it, and he said, hey, he's a military guy. He said, if you want to do all this stuff, get in the military. So next day I went down and enlisted.
Wow. So what branch did you join?
I joined the Army. I went in the Army, and I signed up to fly helicopters. I was going to be a warrant officer and fly helicopters for the Army. And that was late 70s.
So Vietnam was over pretty much.
Pretty much it was over. They were basically throwing helicopters off the side, coming back. Yeah, exactly.
They land them and toss them, right?
Yeah. So basically, I had gotten in on a delayed entry program. I took all the fast tests and all the tests to fly helicopters and passed them because I was already a fixed wing pilot, but I wanted to fly helicopters for them. And they accepted me, and then they called me. I was supposed to, this was like in the summer, that I went to Patrick Air Force Base, took the medical, did all that. And then I was delayed entry until December. So I was just hanging out waiting. And during that time, they wrote me a letter and said, we really don't need any more helicopter pilots. We're riffing them out anyway. Yeah. If you're not an astronaut, we can't use you. We don't need any more. And so they said, look, you have your choice. No harm, no foul. We'll cancel your contract. You go on about your business, or you can go pick something else. And I needed the GI Bill. There was no way. So I went down to the recruiter's office and I opened the book and looked for the jobs. And there was a job opening in Alaska as an Arctic paratrooper. And I went, oh, well, I guess I'll go do that. And because I figure if I couldn't fly them, I'll jump out of them. And so they accepted me, and I went, I got in 27 days or 23 days before the GI Bill, the original GI Bill ended.
Yeah, that was the good one too.
That was the good one, yeah. So I got in right at the end. I was inducted in Philadelphia on December 7th and went to Fort Leonard Wood for my basic training. I'd never been that cold before.
Yeah.
December, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Oh man, I cried. Then I went to Fort Benning and I went to my, what they call AIT, or my advanced training, infantry training. In Fort Benning, and then I went to jump school when I was done with that. And then once I graduated all that, they sent me to Alaska.
How many years were you in?
Just my standard couple of years, yeah. I mean, I did my minimum time and then I was out.
Then you got out, and then how did you get into flying commercially? What happened?
I left there immediately and went to, I drove down to the lower 48 when I was done with the military. And so I got my GI Bill, went down south and went to Sierra Academy of Aeronautics in Oakland. And I got all of my ratings. I got my commercial instrument, multi-engine, everything but my CFI. And then once I was done with that, I went to work for Bayview Aviation. There was a couple of other operators there, but that's where I got really my first job. A friend of mine was working at a restaurant up in Lake Tahoe, and she ran into a guy that needed to have a corporate pilot. They were going to take an airplane, go to South America, and they were going to go build houses for the Guri Dam project in Venezuela. And so that's where the Rio Caroni and the Rio Orinoco rivers come together, the confluence of those two, way down in the bush. And then they built this big hydroelectric dam. Well, they did build it. But anyway, this guy was a builder in Lake Tahoe. He bought this airplane from the drug thing, and we took it to California City down in Barstow here, and we rebuilt it and got it all certified, and I got checked out in the airplane because it was a big twin. And then we headed off, went to South America. I didn't speak any Spanish, none, and he didn't either. So, I mean, very little anyway. But we flew down to Tucumán, Panama. We got as far as Tucumán, Panama. And we taxied out to go across the Gulf there to, we were going to Barranquilla, Colombia. And that was going to be our first stop. And then we were going to go around the Andes there and over to Maracaibo and over to Caracas and then to Maiquetía, which was where we were going to end up. And he was going to get this whole thing together. Well, like I said, one of the things that we agreed to, because I was such a young pilot, we agreed that every time I would go land the plane, I would do the approach and go around and come back and land the second time. Well, that didn't hurt me at all, hurt my feelings, because I got more flight time, which is what I was trying to build. So we flew down to Tucumán, to Panama, and we got gas, and we were all ready to go. Flight plan filed over across the Gulf. This is before GPS, remember? I mean, literally, we're doing everything with charts and
maps.
Dead reckoning. Yeah. Until we got to Venezuela, where there were no maps or nothing below the 5th parallel. It was all, terrain data unreliable.
Wow.
Oh yeah. So we got we took off we were getting ready to take off from Tucumán, and the thunderstorms down in Panama are absolutely just unbelievable. I mean, we're talking 60,000 feet in some cases. And we taxied out to go, and it got pitch black out, and the rain came down, and I told Ron, I said, I'm not going anywhere. We went back to the gate, and we told the air traffic people, and they said, no problem, we'll keep your flight plan. Tomorrow morning before you go, just open your flight plan and head on out. So we did that. The next morning, beautiful day for cruising across the Gulf. And you got to think about this place in Barranquilla, kind of like LAX. It's like LAX. Well, think about a little light airplane coming in and flying into LAX and just entering the 45 on the pattern, going downwind and making an approach without ever talking to anybody. And that's exactly what kind of was like going into Barranquilla, because we didn't speak any Spanish.
Oh no.
No, so we flew over there, did all the procedures, and on top of that, go down and do an approach and then go around and come back around, right? By the time we got back around, the Army was waiting for us on the ground in Barranquilla. And so they were like guiding us over. They got these two Jeeps with 30 cal machine guns on it, you know, and they take us to this little area. They surround the airplane, and the captain's getting off there, and he's like, shut the engines down. And they were very, very good. Nobody spoke any English. That was the weirdest part. So we get out, they kind of get us out of the airplane, put us in these Jeeps, and they take us off into this little compound in this concertina wire with all these airplanes, and they're like contrabandistas, you know? I mean, I now know what's happening. They put us in this room, and probably we were there for about 2 hours, and every 15 minutes or so, a couple guys would come in. They would ask us, plan duelo, and I have no idea what they're talking about, right? And finally, I guess maybe around 2 hours later, in walk these two military pilots, and we kind of make eye contact. I was wearing a uniform with epaulets, so we kind of made a little eye contact, and they came over, and the other two people are in there, and they're like, you know, plan duelo, and the pilot says, well, he's asking for your flight plan. And I'm like, oh. And I reach in my pocket, and I pull out the stamped copy of my flight plan, and I give it to him. And these two guys go off, and the two military guys were standing around chatting for a little bit. Like maybe 10 minutes later, they come back. Now, everybody speaks English.
Oh.
Welcome to Colombia, Captain Tragarz, and welcome to Colombia. We're going to go take your boss. We're going to take him over, get some lunch. We're going to have this guy take you around so you can pay your fees, get your gas, whatever. Everybody spoke English.
The same guys.
Same guys, yeah. Everybody speaks English now. They treated us very well. They never searched the airplane, none of that you would expect. And after I got taken around to pay all the fees and do all that stuff, then they took me over and we had lunch, and then they took us back to the airplane, and Ron and I took off for Maracaibo, or actually for Caracas. And we both, after we took off and we're climbing out to make that right turn to go towards Venezuela, we both looked at each other and went, oh my God, did we dodge a bullet?
Oh yeah, that could have been bad.
Yeah. So we got over to Caracas, and I had to apply to the pilots union there so that I could fly the airplane down in the south, you know, in the savannah.
Yeah.
And so I did, and they approved it, and I got a letter from them saying I could fly that airplane anywhere in Venezuela. And that started our adventure. We got over there. Ron found out that they don't build houses of wood in Venezuela. The reason is they got a bug down there that can eat through aluminum. So that's why they build with cinder block, basically. So his whole construction thing was really out the window. And so we didn't know what we were going to do. And you know who the Freemasons are. Well, they have Freemasons there, and Ron was a Freemason. And so he met this guy in Puerto Ordaz that was supposedly a Freemason, and they did their little hand signal things and all that. And he convinced Ron that we needed to build a gold and diamond mine on the Rio Orinoco and the Rio Coroni before they flooded everything. And there were already mining operations out there, but they were those things that you see on TV, like the little barges where diver goes down and they suck up the thing, yeah. And then they do all that stuff. Well, we weren't going to do that, but we went down and we went down into a place called Trinidad, and way south in the savannah, and we acquired a bunch of mining equipment, some pumps and sluices and some diamond jigs and all this stuff. We brought it all back to a place called El Monteco, which was where the president's son lived and his daughter at the time. And we lived there. We lived in the village. There was a little airport there, and we did some insertions. We went down to Trinidad. I had to make all my own charts and all that to get there, and we drove there in jeeps. It took us a couple days. And we did a round trip. I made all these charts, and then I went back and got the airplane and flew the airplane there. We built a runway with smudge pots and everything.
You built your own runway. Wow.
We built our own runway, and I went down there and made a bunch of insertions and picked up all the gold and diamond mining equipment and flew it back to El Monteco, where we put it on these long canoes that were like around 30 feet long. And they had these big Chrysler engines on them. And we took it about 15 miles downriver to a place that he said he owned. And we set up a gold and diamond mine there. And we mined, sluiced, we did placer mining for the gold. And then all those tailings went through the diamond jigs. And we were taking gold and diamonds out of the ground there. And they sent me back at what point, came back to the States with to have some diamonds looked at to see if they were any good. They all turned out to be industrial grade, so I took everything back to South America and gave it back to the guy. Turned out, you know, I was kind of at the end of my line. I needed to get back. I needed to really get going with my career. And really, Ron wasn't paying me like he should. He was supposed to be paying me all this money, and I wasn't getting any of it. So eventually I decided, you know, Ron, I'll tell you what, I'm going to head up and go back to Maiquetía, spend a little time, go to the beach. When I got to the dock, where at the end, the National Guard was waiting for us.
Uh-oh.
And they called me over, you know, hey, ven aquí. And they wanted to know what we were doing down there. And I told them, I said, well, we're the guy. And, well, apparently this guy was well known by the National Guard and that he didn't own the land.
Oh, no.
So they told me, they said, look, you need to go back down there and get your partner and tell him because we're going to raid the place.
Oh.
So I got back on the canoe and I went back down there and I said to Ron, I said, Ron, you need to get in the canoe with me, grab your stuff and come because the National Guard's down there. They're getting ready to raid this place. This guy doesn't own it. And so he did. And we went back and we were, you know, they let us go. And at that point I told Ron, I said, you know, Ron, I said, I really love to stay, but you're not paying me. And really, we're not doing what we said we were going to do. But I picked up a bunch of hours in the Beach 18, so I was ready. And so I told him, I said, look, you have two choices. I can leave the plane here, I'll grab my stuff and walk out of here, or I will fly the airplane to Maiquetía, where it will be at a place where you can find a pilot. You know, you leave an airplane in the jungle for 2 weeks and you're done.
It's done, yeah.
Well, yeah, the triple canopy grows right up around it in like 2 weeks and you're never moving the airplane.
It really grows fast, doesn't it?
Oh, really fast.
Wow.
And so he was wise enough and I flew the airplane back to Maiquetía, got on a jet, and came back to the States and continued my career. I came back to the U.S. after Venezuela and went back to CFI school up in Santa Rosa, California. And I got my instructor rating and finished that all off. And got my first job instructing in a place called Shelville, which is just north of, it's just right by Napa Valley. It's a little grass strip by Black's Point, where I got my first instructing job. I was teaching aerobatics.
Oh, what fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. The guy who owned the school, basically, I didn't know nothing. I didn't know anything about aerobatics. And he handed me Dwayne Cole's book called Conquest of Lines and Symmetry and said, here, this is your instruction book. There's your first student. You take them up to 3,000, 5,000. You do one, they do one, you do one, they do one. Pick a couple of maneuvers and start learning. And that's what I did.
Did a special plane you do for everybody?
Yeah, it was. That was in a super decathlon, 180 horse inverted system. It was built for for teaching aerobatics. It was so it could take high G loads, and it was had an inverted oil system so that you could fly upside down for however long you wanted, 1 minute or two.
That
anyway.
must have been great fun, huh?
Oh, it was a blast. I went to work for Ameriflight, and that was flying all the bank checks all over California, right out of Oakland and LA. And so for a while, I flew the airplanes every morning, 5 days a week out of Oakland, and my run was over up to Twain Harte in Columbia. I'd spend my days up in Twain Harte and wait for the end of the day. Then I'd drive by all the banks, pick up all the paperwork, go down to the airport, load the airplane, stop in Modesto on the way down, end up in the evening back in Oakland. They'd unload the airplane. Next day it'd start over again, and I was off on the weekends. So I did that for a while, and then I decided to head off into, go back into corporate. So I came back to Atlantic City, New Jersey, where I worked for a corporation or a man there that was his corporate pilot, and he was very instrumental in bringing the casinos to Atlantic City. So I flew for him for a while, and we brought the casinos in, and I flew for the casinos. I had my own charter operation there using his airplanes. I had some fantastic years there because every summer I would spend my summers up in flying the attorneys and all the business guys up to Martha's Vineyard, Newport, hanging out on their boat with them. It was great, fantastic. And then, of course, he would go every year down to Key West. We had 2 apartments in Key West, so I'd fly the family down there and spend the time down there in Key West with him and fly him back. And then I decided to go to the airlines and went to Wings West. It was my first airline job, and I was based in San Francisco and flew the Metroliners for them. Then I went to Midway Airlines in Chicago, flew the DC-9s and the MD-80s for them. Then when they went out of business, because I've had a couple airlines pulled out from under me, and I went to work for, that lasted 56 days out of Portland. So I did that for a little while. I was, the instructor and the chief, check airman and stuff for that. Let's see. Then I left there. After that went out of business, I went back to really Atlanta area, and I worked for a company. It was really out of Las Vegas, but our training base was in Atlanta. It was called Eagle Airlines, and that's where we flew the MD-80s that I used to fly for Midway. They had some of those. And I was really based in Atlanta because I was doing the training for all the guys. I was the instructor, the chief instructor. And then we had an operation in Atlanta and Istanbul where we did supplemental charters in the MD-80, like junkets and things like that. So we were flying out of Biloxi, Mississippi, and we were flying out of Istanbul, all over Europe. And I did that until I was hired by America West to come out in their training department. I was hired to be the senior instructor on the 757. So I came out here, went to work for America West, and I spent about 2 years in the training department, and then they hired me to go on the line. And so I started line flying there. I was part of the line operation.
The line is just taking passengers.
Yeah, regular flying out of the training department. They put me on the 737, and I was first officer on the 737. I was there about 6 months. I got called back into flight standards. So I went back to flight standards, and that's where I got involved with airspace and automation for bringing the airplanes all up to modern standard, RNAV, RNP, and did a lot of work there for many years, most of the years spent in flight standards. And then once I had done all the procedures for everything, I upgraded to captain, and I went back to the in the 737, transitioned over to the Airbus. So I had all the airplanes now: the 75, 76, Airbus, 73s, all the 73s. Went to the Airbus as a captain, and went back to the line. And for my last few years, flew the line on the Airbus, and retired in 2019.
What was your favorite, like all this flying you've done, what was your favorite part? What was your favorite job like?
Well, I loved, in the airline business, I would say flying the Airbus was my favorite. I'm an automation guy, so Airbus is a fully automated airplane, and I was totally a modern airplane. So I really enjoyed flying the Airbus. I really liked flying my helicopters and doing the ag work, the cherry drying and things like that. I loved the search and rescue portion. That was always good. Flying helicopters was mission oriented, so I enjoyed that part of my career.
Do you think that planes have contributed to anything to like the expansion and growth and power and like greatness of America? I mean, has aviation done something that...
Oh, I would say absolutely. I mean, the world, because of aviation, got very small, right? So because it got small, a lot more interactions, a lot more, and that in the internet. I mean, between the two, being able to actually travel there or to be connected through the internet, I think it's made the Earth very small.
Yeah.
And it's really motivated us to get off the planet. I'm a big Musk fan. I think he is changing our world. He's like a Nikola Tesla or a Henry Ford and all of those guys. You know, he's modernizing and bringing us into the future. His robots are going to pave the way to build. They're going to go out and build the bases that we're going to go occupy before we ever even have to go there.
What's in the future?
Automated, autonomous flight, obviously. Remember that the cost of flying is going to be significantly reduced because the airplanes, when they're being flown by optimists, are never going to have to stop except for maintenance. They're not. There's no more delays because crew rest. There's no more. There's no hotels at the other end. All that goes away. There's no food being served to the crew. There's no crew. Right? It's automated.
Right.
So there's no rest requirements for a robot. The airplanes can continually fly around the clock. And when they do that, and the expense of operating the airplane is reduced by the amount that, I mean, think about it. They can buy an Optimus robot for 20 grand, right? That's what the target is. How much do pilots get paid? Hundreds and thousands of dollars a year for each one. Well, the reason there are so many pilots is because of crew duty rest and all the things that are human oriented. When you take all that out, you're going to reduce the cost of flying. It's going to be reduced, I don't know, half? More?
Do you think they'll have electric planes? I mean,
absolutely. Yeah. No doubt about it. Oh, the batteries are being done right now. I think really they'll be composite. They won't be fully electric. They will be electric, but they'll be hybrids.
But you won't have like jet fuel and all those problems.
You'll have jet fuel, but it'll be only the jet fuel required to run the auxiliary unit that's charging the batteries that make it hybrid.
Okay.
It won't be running the engines. The engines will be electric.
Electric.
Yeah, it'll be electric engines, which they're already doing.
Do they have any electric planes now that are flying?
Sure. Well, the airlines I should say the larger airplanes are testing electric engines right now.
So it's
but if you look at companies like Joby and Archer, they're the two U.S. companies. We're getting ready to see a complete evolution of Uber.
Yeah. So you've sort of seen the last.
The last of
The
the,
last of
yeah,
the
I think
flying,
we're,
you know?
I think we see the last of the big, or the fossil fuel transports.
Yeah. Do you think passenger planes will be bigger, or will they?
No, I think no, I don't. They don't see any reason to be bigger.
Yeah.
I think there'll be more of them, and the containment that we're building right now in the airspace will allow for more traffic. But they'll be every size that we have now, but they'll just be electric, and it'll be autonomous. So basically, the cost of doing it's going to drop significantly.
And then the air flight controllers, that'll all be done by AI and computers and.
Yeah, because they will be giving the commands to the aircraft. It'll be, the way I look at it, it'll be a room, and one guy or one robot will be, and probably be a human in there somewhere monitoring everything that's happening. But a robot can sit there and monitor 20 aircraft at the same time with no problem, and give all the commands for each one of the airplanes, and really literally be driving the airplane from the ground and separating traffic. But we already have the tools in place to do this. We have PFAST, AFAST, we have the HARP program, we have STARS, we have which gives us the mosaic picture. We have ADS-B, which is the replacement for radar. All these pieces. We have RNP, which is basically the containment for each aircraft. We have great autopilot systems, autoflight systems, and Optimus is going to be the Optimus robots will be able to get the nav solution up to 10 to the minus ninth, which is what's required for the hazard assessment for flying airplanes in the airspace.
Yeah.
It's all going to be, it's already there. All the pieces are already here.
Right. So the future looks good for that now.
I think so.
What do you think about people talk about AI and robots taking over and killing everybody?
Well, you mean, yeah, we've all seen the,
We've seen the Terminator,
the predictions, and also the movies that have come out. You know that show robots becoming intelligent and literally, what was that movie with Will Smith? I, Robot.
Right. Yeah.
And it was the 3 laws, right? I'm sure that's something that needs to be addressed. I mean, how do we contain something that's more powerful than what we can be, even?
Exactly.
So, I don't think it's impossible. I don't know. I mean, it's too early to know how we're going to achieve all these things, to make sure that humans stay in control.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's I don't think it's brain surgery. I think it's just merely, here's how, and I think that the question comes in only because AI is developing right now. So we don't know everything about AI yet.
Right.
We will.
But the people on the forefront, every country, it seems, at least China and America, they're all trying to master it for military.
Well, but that's our.
That's always been that way.
It's always that way, because where do we spend our money? We spend our money on research, either in medical or military, and all of that stuff filters down into the society.
Exactly.
So I think the military AI is way more easy to control.
Well, I'm talking about the other people, because they're developing stuff to, vanquish other people, and who knows what they might be.
Well, vanquish, the way I look at it is, there is no money in taking over somebody else's land anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't even do it in Iraq right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Iran. There's no money in it.
Yeah.
There's no benefit in going over and taking over Russia, the land. There's no benefit in having a war. There's really no benefit in it, because even look right now. We could go over there and we just take over the country, right?
Yeah, but
we're not even doing it in Cuba. So there isn't any financial gain to be
It's
had.
not like it used to. You don't get a castle. You don't get all the jewels. It's all
Capture the
different.
flag is
Yeah,
no longer
it's gone.
really. It's more economic now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so because I think we've progressed to being on an economic battlefield that's more well defined, more well controlled. I mean, because you have to take politics into play.
Yeah.
Because what do they say about war? It's politics by other means, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're losing that other means. We're going into a time when really there isn't any benefit to
Well,
it.
you need one another, even your enemies. Look at our trade partner,
Exactly.
China. I mean,
Exactly.
let's have a war and then everybody gets broke. It's like,
Exactly, and not only that, there's no benefit.
Yeah.
You can't take over a
You don't-
country with 1 billion people in it.
Right.
They can't come over here. Now Mao Zedong did have a philosophy that says, why should we fight a war? We got 1 billion people.
Yeah.
We'll just send 5 million people over there and take over from internally. Now, we are having that discussion about Islam right now.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree that probably will be more of a defining, that will define our ability to combat somebody coming over and taking over. We have a really good system here because the reason that people like Mandami and Karen Bass and Johnson and what's her name up there in Washington, Seattle. The reason that they'll never be able to achieve what they want from a communist standpoint is because we have the system we have. In order to do what they want to do effectively, you have to do it by the whole country. You have to have that kind of resource
Right.
to do it. They don't have it.
No.
They have a little tiny town which they're driving out. All the people there have a place to go, right next door.
and it won't work anyway because it doesn't work.
Well, it won't work no matter what you do because it never has. However, it's very isolated. These things are isolated because they only have a defined little pattern there. And what are they doing? They're driving out all the people that actually fund the reality of the world, right? The political system there. When they, what Margaret Thatcher said it better. It all works until you run out of everybody else's money. Yeah. They have a very limited budget, right. And they're running out really fast. Yeah. So I'm not really that concerned. Yeah. Plus, on a more grand scale, because the Islamic culture, the Muslim culture, is that they want to take over the world, right? And that's their thing. Everybody has to be of Islam, or you're an infidel and you should be killed, right? I mean, technically. That's very simplistic, but basically. So on their end, they're running out of all the money, and people are already pushing back and not allowing them to take over. However, at the end of the day, I think that we live in a society where we don't have to worry about Muslims and Islam taking over, because the very minute that they try to put our women in burqas.
Yeah, it's the women that'll say no.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The very minute that they, but I can't even imagine.
I'm with you, it's not going to happen.
It'd be like somebody invading Florida, and trying to take over Florida by like landing on the shore. They're like the comedian guy, what's his name, Dale says. He says, oh man, he said there'd be a line of NASCARs coming from South Carolina, North Carolina, all the way down 95, all going down there with their guns. I'm not worried. He says, because eventually, whomever comes here to try and change it, you run into Americans.
Right.
And Americans, we're only going to take so much. We're going to go, oh yeah, you want to do what you got to, oh yeah, oh you want to play, oh yeah, you know what, we're going to play the game with you, but then you're going to cross this magic line, and we're done.
I've traveled enough to see that our country is a great place. And like if this falls, what's left?
Our strength as a country, and our foundation of a country is rooted in the fact that the states are the drivers. The states, each one is its own experiment. And that's why no one will ever be able to come and take over the country, because Washington, D.C., yes, it does the big picture items, and it should. It takes care of our mutual security, it takes care of our borders, it looks after the general welfare, but really, every state is its own state, and it has its own constitution and can decide anything it wants. Right. That's why I'm not worried about Islam coming here and taking over Texas. No. It ain't gonna happen. Texas, of all places, they literally chose the wrong place to start. They chose wrong, Grasshopper. Because the Texans aren't going to put up with that. Hell, they call themselves a republic anyway.
Right, they're ready to be in a country again.
They're in their own mind, they have their own country.
They have their own flag.
Exactly, exactly. Well, every state has its own flag.
Yeah, but they were the only state that was ever a nation, a republic. Yeah.
True, that is true. Yeah. That is true. Well, but I just think it's funny because everybody gets all up in arms and they twist themselves into these little pretzels because they, these things are happening. The reason that we're free and the fact that we are free is based on the fact that it applies to everybody, and it's ambiguous until it's clear. So if it's Texas that they decide to, I gotta arrest you because you're carrying in your trunk you're transporting a weapon, and we don't like it. It's the cost of freedom. Right. You have to fight it. You have to exercise your rights, because you have no rights unless you exercise them. Right,
and you exercise those in court. That's where you
correct. You use the system. We have a 3-tier system,
and it works.
And well, it's messy,
but it works.
It takes time. It's a slow grind, but it's what provides for our freedom. Literally, there aren't any countries in the world like us.
No, nowhere.
None.
Nowhere. I mean, even in England, you say things on Facebook and they'll come and arrest you.
Well, so they're working through that problem right now. Even in Europe. And now, I must admit, I travel a lot and I go to places like China. I do a lot of work in China, or have. And they do have something we don't have. That they have a sense of community. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks, oh, they're really bad drivers, but they're really not. They're really good drivers, but they operate in a system that's chaotic. There isn't any, in China, it's really funny. They don't allow Americans or foreigners to drive in China.
Really?
Can't go rent a car in China.
Well,
no, you can't do that.
That's not fair.
No, well, it is. It's self-preservation. Yeah. Because we drive completely different than they do. They drive defensively and offensively at the same time. We don't drive defensively at all. None. Zero.
Yeah,
we're all offense.
Yeah, we're going. Gas on.
We're going, and you're in my way. And if you try and get over, I'm going to beep and I'm going to cut you off. And
Now, do they have road rage in China?
No. No, they don't. As a matter of fact, that's why I was going with this. In China, if you're next to somebody and this guy wants to get over, right?
Yeah.
If he's a little bit ahead of you and he starts over, this guy is obligated to slow down and let you in.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. It works over there because it's a sense of community.
Right.
That's why you see these, even queuing up for things in China, it's really weird, like queuing up for the train. Everybody just knows you get in line because you queue up. And that's how it works. Here in America, it's a gaggle, and everybody's pushing and shoving, and I'm first, and so that's what makes it different in China. That's why when they come over here and drive, it stands out so much because they don't drive like we do. So it doesn't flow. Over in China, billions and billions of cars, but it all just kind of flows. It all works.
They've got their way. Now, what do you think about the drums of war between us and China? You think we'll avoid it?
What's in it for? What's in it? I just don't. I think we're quickly outgrowing
Yeah.
our need to have a hand-to-hand combat war.
Yeah, exactly. Well, won't the next? I mean, look at Ukraine.
It's all, yeah.
It's becoming automated anyway. The drones are killing people. They've got the machine guns on like that little thing that took your plane in. They
Yeah.
have 50 cows on them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
so all that's changing. Now, let me ask you one thing.
Yeah.
You flew so many thousands of hours. Did you see
Over 20,000.
20,000. What about UFOs? Have you seen anything? There, or you
That's
gotta-
funny because the guys at KTAR,
Yeah.
they asked me the same question. The answer is yes. I don't care what pilot you talk to. We've all seen unidentified objects flying in the sky.
What did you see?
Well, I've seen things flying that I couldn't identify. Talked to air traffic about it, and I've never had a close encounter. I've never had a close encounter. But I've seen things flying that were trailing us or out on the distance that weren't there, like the air traffic saying, "Oh, we don't see anything."
But hey, you see it.
We've all seen it. Now, I mean, I can remember a time when I was flying across country, and I turned around to my FO, and I'm like, "Hey, should we say anything, or they may take us away when we get where we're going?" So, yes.
What do you think they are?
Oh, I don't think we're alone.
Yeah.
If to think that we are the only sentient beings in the universe is pretty I don't even know what the word is. It's
Pretty bodacious.
It's a pretty hubris.
Yeah,
I mean, the
it's sort of
hubris is pretty big.
when they used to believe that everything revolved around us.
Correct. The sun, everything revolved around the sun, and to think that we're the only ones here, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And because we haven't had close contact, I do believe it's coming.
Yeah, I do too.
I believe it's coming.
Yeah.
You know, especially when we get off the planet and we're inhabiting Mars, our view of the world and the universe is changing.
Yeah.
It's expanding, and once it expands to a point where it's just like having a concept of infinity. Our problem in the past is we've never had it. We do not have the capability to understand and really understand what infinity is, because our minds, it's always +1.
Right.
So we don't have that capability, but eventually someday we might.
Well, like you said, that's changing now. I mean,
Yeah, I do. I think it's changing.
And it makes the old warfare thing. It's not
Totally
like,
obsolete.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, well, why?
exactly.
Why spend the money?
There it goes. Right.
Yeah, why
that
spend
you,
the
right?
why spend the money? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
We can't afford to run our own country, much less another country at the same time that we're running this one.
Yeah.
We all have to focus on our own economies, and we have to do business with each other. To me, and I've always thought that we had progressed to the point where we need a businessman to be running our country.
Oh, funny you should mention. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's really pushed everything aside. Like a lot of people, and I don't get aside. I don't say what side of politics. But what I see about him is he's changed the way business is done.
Correct.
Business as usual.
He's correct.
You may not like him or not like this, but he said, no, we're not going to do it that way anymore.
Correct.
And
We're going to look how many years that our country has been taken advantage of by the world.
Oh,
now, rightfully so that it happened that way, because really it started in World War II.
Sure.
Because we wanted to help rebuild the world, because the world really got crazy. I mean, especially Europe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we rebuilt it.
And so what did we do? We said, let's extend ourselves out to the rest of the world, and we won't even ask for anything, so that you can use your resources to get where we're at.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's here.
Yeah, that was decades ago.
That was decades ago. And really, I just think it, I don't think it's really a battle. I just think it's a normal progression.
Yeah.
We needed somebody like a Trump.
Yeah.
Could have been anybody, but like a businessman who could look and run our government like a business.
Yeah.
That's all. Just deploy. We really are the richest country in the world. There's absolutely no reason why. Remember, and I think, and it's something I really didn't know until this all started. I didn't even realize that in the early 1900s, we didn't have an income tax. Or I knew we didn't have an income tax. The reason we didn't have an income tax is because we had tariffs.
Tariffs, yeah.
And that paid for everything. And that's, I think, the concept here is that it should be equalized.
Right.
Business should be equalized. And I think what he's doing with tariffs, I look at the guy in Florida right now. Because of the way things are working, he's already talking away with doing away with income tax. We shouldn't have to pay income tax.
No, and it's like you said earlier, it has been, they've been taking advantage of us because they had better.
They've been taking advantage of our good nature.
Absolutely, and that should end. It should be fair. Let the fair.
And I
win.
think that's exactly what when I hear, you may not like the way he talks or some of his demeanor.
Yeah,
I get that. Some people are thin-skinned, but no one can argue with the success that he's had stabilizing our economy and our standing back in the world. Equalizing it, not making it, I don't think he wants to be like the leader, the Genghis Khan, a king. No, he just wants to make sure that when we make a deal out there, that it's fair for both parties. It's fair. Fair business can be fair and be profitable for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's what I think that's what he wants. That's what I see. That's the way I interpret it. And in fact, what I see out there, in the world is that taking place. It's a process. I mean, how many years we've been doing it the other way? A lot of years.
Yeah, they're used to, like Japan's used to having a better advantage on importing cars. And
Exactly.
It was never right. And it's funny, I had a publishing company for a minute 20 years ago, and I looked for an American printer. Couldn't find one. I could not find an American printer that could match a Hong Kong price. And I wanted to support an American, and that's, a lot of printers went out of business.
That's right.
So,
and they went out of business. Why? Because you can't compete out there in the world when they're getting subsidized by their governments.
Well, what do you think about AI? AI is going to take so many jobs. So many people aren't going to have a job.
I think I personally think it's going to do both.
Yeah.
Yes, some jobs are going to be automated.
Well, do you think there'll be a universal stipend for people to survive?
Kind of like what you would see in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Nobody really gets paid anymore, but you get everything you need.
Yeah, you get everything you need.
Could it be possible? I think it's possible.
Yeah.
When the government can make enough revenue on its own and act like a business and provide all of the things that it should, health care, not necessarily subsidies, but once you begin automating the productivity, right? Now you reduce the cost for everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
For everything. And once you start reducing the cost down to a point where it's manageable on the values that we actually make today, the rest will just fall into place.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't ever think that we're going to be a society where we depend on the government for everything. I think we're probably going to be a society where business can now be productive, where the cost of goods and services are reduced to the point where you don't have to make $1 million every year to live very comfortably and to be able to save and be retired and fund, Social Security and Medicare and all those things. I don't think we have to pay for that. No. I think if we're not doing that and we're not taking care of our own people, we can't take care of anybody else. It's just like when I went to search and rescue school. Everywhere in the schoolhouse, all over the walls, there was this saying on everywhere you looked: Don't become the victim. You can't save everybody. When you have a ship that can hold 100 people, and you see another ship out there that's in distress, and that ship has 300 people on it, you cannot save 300 people on this ship. Can you take aboard and go over and above? Sure, you can get a little bit, you can stretch it, and maybe you'll put 125 or maybe 150.
One thing, what's like, because you've been a pilot your whole life, what is something that flying has taught you about life? Is there anything that connects it?
Well, yeah, I would say that flying has taught me not to respond and react immediately to things. The first rule that we use in the airlines, especially the airlines, but mostly training, is when something happens and the bells are going off and the lights are flashing and the temperatures are going up and everything. It's not to react, but to analyze and try and determine what actually is the problem before you respond. Like wind your watch. You used to wind your watch, now they're electronic. But it used to be the old saying is that when something happens, do nothing, wind your watch, and then go about your business. Use procedures. So I think that it has served me pretty well over the years that when the obstacles come up, when things look like, oh my God, things are falling apart, or they're not working like they should, or people are being stupid, or they're trying to do something to you, is not to react right away. Analyze, wait for it to mature a little bit. Then generally, I always say things always work out for the way they're supposed to work out.
Yeah.
So I think if anything, aviation has taught me that. Patience, a little bit of patience for the things that are right in front of you, a little more analytical, and of course I'm a technical guy anyway, so I don't know if it was really aviation, but I'm a technician. I read technical manuals. I don't read, love stories and all that. My wife says I have no heart, really, actually.
You're not a romance novelist.
I'm not a romantic. Yeah, I'm not a romance novelist, although there are many aspects. I think most men would have certain things that are romantically oriented, but I'm not. I wouldn't by any stretch. I wouldn't call myself a domestic or a romantic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't define myself that way. But I would say that aviation has taught me all that. Even when things you don't know. And so you really need to wait until you figure it out before you start responding, or before you start formulating some type of an action plan or something. So I think planning and looking at things like that, and not responding to what you think is happening, but wait to really see what's really going on. I think it's served me pretty well in aviation. It's served me well on April 12th.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I can tell you that.
You were very calm, and you assessed it, and
that's right. The first thing I did was when I had the first indication, even before it became apparent that we were losing power, the first indication was the RPM gauge going to red line. And so right then, immediately started procedures, right? Let's analyze, find out, okay, that's what the indication is. How can I determine if that's the case? Use the prop controller, no control. Okay, prop full forward. Now I can see that I'm actually losing power. Now it's time to go into the procedures and try and recover power. Fuel pumps on, mixture rich, throttle adjust, try and get it all, get as much power. Nothing happening. Once that was the analyzed portion was done, then now it was avigate. So we say avigate, navigate, communicate. Those things. I never got to communicate because it didn't happen. It was too far down the list. I didn't have to navigate was definitely something, but not in the true sense of trying to find a place. It was just navigate on a path that got me safely to the ground and navigate, fly the airplane, fly the airplane, fly the airplane.
Yeah, which you did.
That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what was the success of the mission, was the fact that I put all that other stuff away and I flew the airplane. I picked the path that, luckily, it was the right path. It could have been different, right?
Yeah.
It could have been anything. But I was fortunate enough to have selected the right path. I was situationally aware enough not to try and make multiple decisions. Because I really believe, when I look at accidents and things like that, accidents that you see, airplanes that are landing, right? And right across the street is a park or a golf course, and they crash into a house.
Yeah, why not the golf course? Right?
Or at the golf course, right? And they crash into a house. Why? Because chances are, the way I look at it is this: had I diverted my attention for the required amount of time to have selected the landing gear down, which was not part of the procedure, or putting the gear down, right? Both of which would have changed the flight characteristics of the aircraft. The outcome could have been completely different. Completely different. My options would have changed completely. Second, had I diverted my attention away to pick, let's say, oh, I'm flying to this spot. I've decided that's where I'm going, right? 7th Street. And then I look over there and I see, oh, I could go over there. And I turn the airplane and then I go, uh-oh, that's not going to work. Now I turn back to 7th. That option's no longer available. Yeah. And I think that's what happens in these accidents where you see. Now, that's not always the case. Don't want to take anything away from the pilot, because they have to make the decision. I don't like being second guessed either, so I won't second guess any of them. But I can see clearly how making multiple decisions and then trying to get back to the original one, or making the wrong decision and having to make another decision, could easily place the airplane in a place where no options are available. Sure. And you end up crashing into a house. Whereas if you just would have stuck with your plan to begin with, it may not have been pretty, but you would have survived.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people right now. I said, I made one decision. That's it. I made one decision. When I was making that turn and I saw that 7th Street was it, I never even considered another decision.
That's what you call good narrow focus, right?
And that's it. When the emergency happened, the situational awareness expands. And the focus expands to all these things, all these inputs. But as you begin to prioritize, right, the situation, procedures, flying the airplane, configurations, all the things, what's going on with the airplane, can I recover? Once all those things start to fall away, your focus becomes narrow, more narrow as you go. And then your situational awareness begins to focus down, and when they marry up, you're in the groove.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
Did you go into slow motion? Because a lot of times I've been in really life-changing things.
I'm not going to, no, not slow motion.
Yeah.
No, my time awareness, it did not, I didn't get a warped sense of time.
Yeah.
Because it happened so quickly.
Yeah.
There really wasn't time for that to happen.
Yeah, now you can replay it, right?
Well, you know what? What's interesting. Everybody asks me, because this is not my first time I've been in an emergency like this. It's my first time doing an emergency landing on a road there, but not my first emergency. Yeah. And I can say that normally at the end of one of these things, you always question yourself.
Yeah, sure.
The first weeks after that, you keep replaying what happened. Did I do this right? Did I do that right? Could I have done this? Could I? And you always do that in an emergency like this. Or really any emergency. That didn't happen here.
No, this was
Not even for a minute.
Yeah.
I never questioned, not even one time. That never even didn't even pop up on my brain to even think about it. And I never had a dream about it. I didn't question it. Never did that happen on this particular incident.
Well, that was a job well done. Hey,
Thanks.
Thanks for welcoming me. And I have one final question. Is that I sometimes forget to ask people, but what's your favorite thing about America?
My favorite thing about America. My favorite thing about America is it truly is the land of opportunity. And we as Americans have, and I don't care who you are, I don't care what, you've been the bottom, you come from the poorest of the poor dirt farmer all the way to the richest guy. We have the opportunity to make our lives what we choose to make it. And go anywhere, do anything, say anything really. I mean, be as offensive or as you care to be, if that's the side of what you want to be on. But what I like, what I treasure about being American and being here is freedom. You know, I fought for it. I went in the military. I fought for our freedom to do all the things that we're just talking about. So my favorite thing is that we are truly free here, and that it doesn't matter what other people think of you. It doesn't matter what other people try and do to you. It doesn't matter what other people try and say about you. You have the ability to make that your own reality the reality. Yeah. And that is what I love about America. Because in other countries, people don't think that way.
True enough.
So that's why I wave the flag outside. I have the flag flying here. I have the flag in the back of the hangar, and I fought to fly that flag. And I fought for the right for somebody to burn that flag. And so I don't ever look at it as being some negative. It is what it is. People can be whoever. The trans, all the things that are going on in our society, they have every right to be that. They just don't have the right to make me do it.
Right.
And that's the freedom that we're talking about. Exactly. So.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Wasn't that interesting? What an interesting life he led. All right, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.